My face is horrible. Um, Sorry, folks. This has been aggravating as hell. I'm not sure if anybody's going to be able to see this or not. Sound. Okay. Freak, guys. I'm sorry. This has been aggravating as hell. There's something with my OBS. It won't allow for input. Um, so thank you all for being patient. This is totally blowing away what I wanted to do. Um, so now I've got to kind of catch up and get it. If there's something wrong with OBS, it won't allow me to input sound. I'm utilizing the same mic settings. Everything is there. Tested system audio. It does show up, but it's not there. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Um, that was 20 minutes of troubleshooting to do nothing. So I really do apologize. Thank you all for being patient with me. Um, really aggravating start to this morning. So, but appreciate y'all sticking around. I know I've probably lost half the audience, but it was a little game, right? So we get to kind of play around and see what's going on. So let me go through chat. I know there's a lot of people that were in here. Shift Kicker, thank you for being here. EMR Coins, Brown Sugar, freaking awesome. Again, thank you guys for being here. Ike's Girl, thank you for being in the stream. Anxious Stacker, I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Again, I look sunburned. It's this camera. It's whenever I do Streamlabs, it doesn't allow me to adjust. So I don't like using StreamYard. It doesn't allow me to adjust my camera settings. It takes this default, which if I wear a red shirt or use the green screen, it makes me look like a giant cherry tomato. So I'm going to be going off here in just a minute. I'm going to be turning off my camera because it drives me insane. Mike Slice, See Happy Chappy, Brother Rat, William E. Thank you guys for coming in. Again, I appreciate your patience. This is why I try not to utilize uh, StreamYard very much unless I'm going to be doing a panel. All right, so I'm already 25 minutes down, so we want to make sure that I honor the Premier train. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fly into this real quick and show you guys kind of what I'm talking about. So today, CM Silver, thank you for coming in. So I'm not sure if you guys saw this or not, but as I was doing preparation for my Wednesday video, um, I wanted to do some information on varieties. And the video that I was creating, there was something in that particular video that talked about something called logotypes. And I kind of knew what a logotype was in the typesetting world because when I was growing up, we used to use old print presses and things of that nature. So I was familiar with what a logotype was. However, I didn't really understand what a logotype was in relation to numismatics, nor did I understand the importance of understanding the purpose of it. Bitefrost is doing well. Killer Strider Gaming, I appreciate you asking. She's doing really well. She's done some new artwork, but you guys will start seeing some of that here in just a few moments. All right, so I wanted to kind of get into a little bit about what in the world was this logo type thing. What was the importance of it? And so we all know that dates and mint marks are the main tools that we have to identify things like varieties and coins, right? But pre 1836, that wasn't the case because the dies were created by hand, right? They weren't utilized by machines. They weren't done that. And in fact, up to 1839, handcrafted dies were pretty much the norm. Now that changed with something called hub dies. and hub dyes are now the king of the die type, right? But prior to 1839, dates in particular were punched in digit by digit. So each individual digit was punched into the die. So knowing this, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about what a logotype is. So it's a single punch. So as you see on the screen here, you're going to see a series of single punches. Now, if anybody works in um, silversmithing or has worked in typesetting, they're very familiar with what this is. But a logotype was utilized by engravers or die sinkers to punch the date into the coin hub or die. And so that's basically just the general definition. But the question is, why is this important? Right? I want to help understand. Well, my favorite designer, Christian Gobrecht, was the one who developed the two type, three type, and four type digit logotypes. And when you start to look at dates, it's really important because you're able to identify how certain areas or how certain errors or varieties um, occurred, right? So you really want to be able to look at um, understanding kind of how things were happening. Now, if you look at modern eras, so you look on the screen and you see 2018, you see this beautiful item. The dates are a part of it, right? So, see, Happy Chappy says he's a lifelong printer, so he understands typesets well. Outstanding. So you're going to completely get this. Modern era coins have the dates on the hub, right? They're all engraved together. It's all one giant manufacturing piece, but that wasn't always the case. And prior to 1839, they actually had different dies to do different things, or matrix, as they used to call it. And so when you would look at setting up a date, so here you got the date 1873, 1873, right? Those are the four items, the four key elements in creating a date, right? You have to have um, whatever the date is, you have to have that individual punch, a scene kind of down here in the bottom, right? That's the kind of thing that we're looking at. But what they were looking when they talked about the logo type is they started blending pairs of these so that you didn't have to do just one. Okay. So they would start blending. So this is a 1 by 4. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one of these were individually stamped. Now, when you look at the stamps of the coins prior to 1836, you could see that there was some variability depending upon the punch or the ones that they were utilized. And yeah, they're mirror image because when you put them around the other way, they're going to show positive. Just like when you're looking at a hub versus a die, when you're looking at the master hub versus a master die, one's going to be the reverse of the other because as each one goes in, there's going to be a reverse of that image. So you're going to have the normal image, but when you make the imprint of that reversed image, it's going to make the actual image there. So if you were to punch a coin with a hub, it would be a reverse image. That's why they make the die as the reverse so that when they punch the die, that's the reverse. Same thing happens within typesetting. Everything's going to be backwards, everything's going to be in reverse because when you print it out, it's going to be the mirror image of what was laid onto the paper or onto the coin. So that's absolutely right. That's why we want to be able to understand this. Now, Christian Gobrecht was the one who said, "Hey, we can do this." In fact, there was an article in PCGS by John Danruther, I think that's how you say his name, that said he utilized two-digit logotypes in 1836 and possibly on some 1835 dated large cents. Now, what that means is that this is the construct that was set up, which means that the 1-8 were together and then the 7-3 would have been together. Now, this is important. We're going to talk a little bit later about why this particular structure is important and why you need to understand how these logo types work, especially if you're looking for varieties, because it's really important to understand that minting process if you're going to be able to determine why something happened or to even be able to determine whether or not it's realistic. because there are certain things that just cannot happen within the process of minting. And if you understand that process, then you would definitely understand whether or not it's possible, but you'll also be able to understand what events had to take place in order for that error or that variety to occur. Okay. Gutenberg mastered yeah, that's exactly right. When it comes to printing, um, that's the kind of another trivia question. What was Gutenberg mostly known for? Um, and if you don't know that, if you do know that, put that in. If you don't, we'll get to that trivia question later. That was a good that was a good segue. See happy chappy. Um, but again, it was important to understand. Now, 2-digit, 3-digit, and 4-digit type logo types were created and they were employed. But when reading this article by Dan Ruther, and I think it's Dan Ruther, if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. There was something that really caught my mind's eye, and that was the fact that when you're looking at varieties, especially with a date, so I'm going to go over here to the 3-digit, 3 by 1 digit logo type. They would utilize these to create what they called a matrix. Now, a matrix was um, a final addition. They would just add a final digit, right? So in this case, the 3-date matrix would be 1870. And then the only time that you would need to utilize something different was when that next year changed. So, for instance, the 3-digit type 187 could be used basically for 10 years, right? And that all they would have to do is they would have to change the final digit. Now, this did a couple things. Number one, it really made setting up a mint really much faster, right? So when you were changing dates, when you were doing that kind of thing, it really made it a lot easier. It made it a lot better because you could have one primary matrix of 187, and then all you would need to do is you would need to create that final digit and then distribute that final digit, and then they would build that specific 4-date or 4-digit logo type and create that final matrix. And then that final matrix will go on to what they call a date day, a day date, a date die, or a die date, whichever one. I think it's a date die. Um, and then that date die would be stamped on that coin, and then the date would be pressed there. And then that would go. Next one would be to the mint mark if the mint mark was going to be there, and then they would stamp the mint mark. Now, post 1983, that changed. They all started putting it on the coin. But it's important to understand why this particular thing happened. As said before, the 3-digit 187 could be used for several years in the production of a matrix, requiring only that one digit to be done and to create that master date die. Okay. Now, when they had that again, because this huge process improvement, it made it really easy to do subtle changes. Now, at the very beginning of this presentation, I showed a coin, and that coin was from 1873. Does anybody remember which coin that was? If not, you'll see here in just a minute. But it's important because I'm utilizing this date for a very specific reason. This date also is very important because the video that I'm releasing Wednesday is going to be about a coin that came out in 1873. Now, Miss Coin Crew and I were both born in 1973. So, Miss Coin Crew, you're going to want to see this because I know, just like me, we love coins that were 100 years old on the year that we were born. So please go check that out. I think you're going to really like that. But I'll get to that in just a moment. And then this last one here is the full date logo type. This is the date matrix that would be put together. And then this is what would be engraved on that master date die. And then that's what would be stamped on the coin. So I'm going to share with you some examples. Here is the 1873 3-cent nickel. Now, it's important to understand the logo types. So when we're talking about the 187 and you're looking at this particular coin, the 187 was a 3-digit logo type. And then the final digit, so they used the 187 throughout much of that decade. Now, there are gonna be subtle differences because there's not just one date die, just like there isn't one master die, just like there isn't one master or isn't working die or working hub. There are gonna be multiples of those. And so you may have had, one or two different date dies in that particular series. Now, it's a little bit harder to determine on the date die which die variety or die pairing you would have had because you're talking about, just millimeters of movement in that position of the date. You'll notice sometimes that when they'd use a two-digit logo type or a three-digit logo type, a two by two or three by one, that you'd see a final digit maybe a little bit higher than the other ones, or maybe you'd see kind of a V-shaped patterning in the date itself, and that would help you kind of determine which one was which. But the reason that I wanted to show you this particular coin, and I got some other coins that we're going to go through, and I'm going to leave it up to chat to ask and see if you guys can determine which one a one or a two by two, a three by one, or just a straight four-digit date logo type was used. But this is important, and the reason that I want you to be paying attention to this particular one is because this is going to come in very crucial on Wednesday's video. So I would like for you guys at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, this video is going to get dropped, and you'll be able to kind of see why I wanted to talk about this ahead of time. And again, everybody that's in chat, you guys know that I've only been on YouTube for about 8 months, 9 months, somewhere in that time frame. So I'm constantly learning. And as I learn and as I hear information that interests me or that I think other people would like to know, I want to share that information out. I want to be able to make sure people understand uh, things that I find that are cool, but also really help you understand what Livecoin Q&A says this all the time. And that is to truly understand what you're seeing on a coin, you have to understand the printing process. You have to understand that minting process. You have to be able to understand how each of the elements on a particular coin got there. Because only then, only by understanding that information, only by really understanding how those things went together, can you truly determine whether or not something happened on a coin pre or post strike. Again, if it happened post strike, it's damage. It's not a variety. If it happened during the strike, or if there was something in that strike or in that minting process, that thousandth of a second when that smashed together, that's when the varieties are done, not after. So it's very important to kind of understand this. Thanks, Brother Rat. I appreciate that. So here's another one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you this one, and I'm going to look in the upper right-hand corner. This is the 1888 over 1887. You can see the 7 there and the 2 digits on the right-hand side. So just a little bit of chat. Do you guys think that this is a 2 by 2 logo type, or do you think that this is a 3 by 1 logo type that was implemented on a date matrix for a master date die? So in chat, go ahead and put 2 by 2 or 3 by 1 to let me know which one you guys think this one might be. And I want, while everybody's putting stuff into chat, um, I want to thank everybody for coming in. Right now, I'm sitting at about 1,125 subs. So I thank you guys very, very much for doing this and for coming in and supporting me and standing with me, especially this morning through all the troubles, the audio issues. I'm going to work to resolve that before tomorrow. Um, Tomorrow is going to be a chit chat, so I'll be utilizing StreamYard again tomorrow. So I've got 3 by 1, 2 by 2. It's kind of a 50-50 mix right now. Um, so the answer in from looking at this is I don't have enough information tell you whether it's a 2 by 2 or whether it's a 3 by 1. My belief, okay, and I'm going to say belief, is that it's a 3 by 1. Now, there are things that would lead me to believe it could be a 2 by 2. So if you look at the 1888, the first two eights are the same. There's a slight difference in the third eight. Now, the dating is a little bit more, it's a little thicker. Now, there's some die mark. It's probably, other coins or maybe some damage that are on a little bit bigger. It's placed a little bit different. It's not exactly the same. Now, the eight itself is pretty close, but there is a slight difference between the other ones. Now, if you look at the lower left-hand portion of the eight in particular, where that black arrow is, you can see that it's a little bit thinner than the other one. There is a slight difference. The upper portion, not so much, but that lower one is slightly different. It's a little bit thinner on that lower left-hand corner. And so I think that, in my opinion, okay, this is my opinion. I don't know for certain. I'm hoping that we have Paula or Shannon or Amanda lurking. But I would say that this is a 3 by 1, and that the 1880, that 188 is the 3-digit logo type that was used, and then the final one was placed with the 8. Now, why is this important? Now, again, when I talk about looking at varieties and errors, or specifically varieties, how would this have occurred, right? So it's really easy to understand how this could have occurred. So they utilized a date matrix from 1887, which is the previous year. So by utilizing the previous year's matrix, um, they stamped the coin with the previous year. Now, this could have been a coin that was left over where they reutilized it and then they just stuck that through and redid the master die date and then just restamped that 8. And that's where you get that 8/7. Or they could have just stamped the final one, which is just that final 8/7. Now, this is what I am not aware of. I don't have the answer to this one. But you can start to see how these things came about. Now, I am going to continue to do some research on this particular one and reach out to Shay and Paula from Livecoin Q&A and actually have them talk to me about how they would have done this particular item, because this this to me is fascinating. I really want to understand how this final type does. But understanding the logo type allows you to begin to understand how these different varieties were put into place. So I wanted to kind of go over. Here's another one. Okay, this is the famous 1941/42. Now, do you guys think that this is a 2 or a 3? Now, this one, I'm pretty sure I know which one this is by looking at the die or looking at the variety itself. I think most people will say the same thing on this one. So go ahead and tell me if you guys think this is a 2 by 2 or a 3 by 1. Go ahead and put that into chat. Jody, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you being here. And if I've missed anybody in chat, I apologize. Trying to walk through this. William E, I think I already said hi to you. I know I said hi to Brother Rat. I'm just trying to look through chat and see if I've missed anybody. So what's everybody thinking? Which one do you guys think this one is? The Mercury Dime 1942/1. Brother Rat says 3 by 1. What do the rest of you guys think? What guys and gals, excuse me. Didn't mean to go that. Chappie says 3 by 1. William says 3 by 1. Shift Kicker says 3 by 1. So I'm going to say that I believe this is a 2 by 2. And the reason specifically the 2 by 2, hopefully you guys can see my mouse, is because if you look at the 4 you can see the doubling that is there. If you look at the position, brown sugar says, yeah, 2 by 2 to be different. If you look at the positioning, you see the 4 and then the 1, and then this is shifted slightly to the right. So there would be the 4, and you can see the bottom here, the 4 for the 2. You can see that these align here. So the 4, 2. I think this is a 2 by 2. So if you split this here, you can see the 19 is the same. They wouldn't have had to change the 19, but they could have changed the 4 and the 2. So I would say that this is a 2 by 2. So when they put this in, when they were making the master working die, or from the master hub, when they were creating the master hub, they would have utilized the 41, and then they would overdone this with the 42. I think they would have added these last two characters to be able to do that. Now, I may have said that slightly wrong because I'm trying to explain something I'm still working on fully understanding. But as you begin to understand how these typeset work, how these logo types work, you can begin to understand how certain areas might have occurred. And this is why you hear Coin Crew, or excuse me, Live Coin Q&A say this all the time. You need to understand the printing or the minting process to be able to understand what you're looking for in specific varieties. Because you can fully understand by looking at this 1942 over 1941 how this particular item might have occurred. And because of that, you'd be able to understand what would have happened within the minting process to be able to understand why this occurred. And yes, I can now see that the 1942 over 1 could have happened by somebody simply putting in the wrong last two logo type set when they were creating the die matrix for the 1942 Mercury dime. I can absolutely see how that could have occurred and understand how this event could have happened. And now I can now begin to understand how it is that this particular variety occurred. And this is why understanding the key concepts and the full minting process is important. So you'll hear them say that every time Paula talks about varieties, or every time Shay talks about varieties, you're going to hear them say, understand the minting process, understand the minting process, understand the minting process. So as I'm going through and creating my videos, if I see something that doesn't make sense or I'm not fully understanding, I'm going to go ahead, Paula, you came in at the absolute perfect time. I don't know if you want to come up. I'm on StreamYard. Have you been lurking in the background? Or did you just happen to sneak in? Um, but yeah, you'll hear Paula and Shay talk about that all the time. Understand the minting process. Understand the minting process. So if you understand the logo type and you understand how they actually created the master date die, and how they utilized either 2 or 3 date logo types to create that master matrix, you'll begin to understand how those varieties were created. And so, Paula, I don't know if you have the opportunity. I can throw you the link if you want to come up. I would love to know if you happen to know. She just popped in. Okay, so we were talking about this one just a moment ago. I think when we're looking at the matrix type, I would say that this is a 3 by 1, that these 3 items were put into the logo type, and then this last one was the one that was added and stamped afterwards. This is why we get the 8 over the 7. So I don't know if you want to come up and chat about that. If you happen to know that, that would be really cool. This one, oops, excuse me. This one I think is easier to understand that it's a 2 by 2 logo type because you can see the definite definition between the 41 here and then the 42 here. As you can see the inside, you can see the lower, you can see how that aligns with the 42. You can see how these two align with the 41. So you can see that this is a totally different logo type than the other one. Um, but anyway, this is just really cool. And I wanted to share as I started to do some research. Because again, when I was doing my video, they talked about logotype, and I was like, well, I'm not sure what a logotype is. I understood kind of logos when you're talking about, Nike and things like that, or if you're talking about typesetting, but I wanted to understand this, so I wanted to kind of share this. The last one that I wanted to go over was this one. Now, this one is really, really cool. Now, Paul, I'm gonna go ahead and send the link. If you want to come up, you can come up, but there is absolutely no reason for you to. The working hub was rehubbed over the 1941. Well, yeah, so again, that's right. But they did well in 1909 they did, but they would create a hub, right? So they would use. Oh, never mind. I understand. So after 1909, they didn't do that. So they didn't use the 2x2 matrix for the logotypes after 1909. Hold on, I'm going to send you the link. Hold on. You can come up and explain this because I don't want to say that incorrect. There's the link if you want to do that. You don't have to. It's not a big deal. But so this is again, folks. I'm learning with you all. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to this. Go back. Okay, so then in 1942 over one, this one happened. They actually rehubbed this one. So they stopped using the date matrix in 1909. Okay, so I didn't know that. That wasn't in the literature that I read, or I didn't get to the bottom of that. So thank you for letting me know that. Again, as I'm learning stuff and I find stuff, if there's something that's slightly incorrect, please let me know because again, I'm trying to learn. Here she is, the one and only, the amazing Paula Bloom.
Hello. I
Hi,
just woke
Paula.
up. Sorry, you guys. I'm still a little tired. I don't know what the discussion here is. I'm sorry. I can see a diamond. Nothing.
So I was talking about logo types.
hmm
Okay,
hmm
and so in 1835, Christian Gobrecht stopped with the single punch dies, right? So they would do the dates punch singly, and then he did a two date and a three date matrix.
Yeah, sometimes if they anticipated using the die for multiple years, then they would use, you know, just the first two digits, and then they would hand punch the second two.
Right, and so
If they thought they were only going to use it for 2 years or 3 years, then they would do the three. Then they would do the three digits. But all of the dates were hand punched. They were just not all hand punched at the same time.
right because the
Yeah,
logo type allowed them to do date pairings or die pairings. So or
right. But they still hand punched every digit individually into the die. There was. Are you talking about like they had a punch that had like a 1-8 whatever on it?
yeah, so
No, they individually did them. But
prior to 1839. After
but
that, they created date dies, and then those dice would be individually punched. But what they did is they would create a date matrix, and that date matrix had 1-8 or 187.
I don't know what you mean by that. Where did you read this?
It was through an article written by John Danruther.
Okay, you have to send that to me because um, everything I have read, brain and everything, all of the dates were individually punched. Sometimes they made dies where they only hand punched the first two digits and left the other two, you know, where they could individually punch them. for that date.
Right.
Sometimes they would individually punch the first 3. And then as they needed them, they would punch that last date.
Right. In
The last
1839, Christian Gobrecht developed 2, 3, and 4-digit logo types. And so they could do
digit logo types.
Yeah, so a logo type is a matrix. So so you have your individual punches. Okay, so
right.
let me go back here. So you have
If
your
you could send that to me, if you could send that to me, that'd be great. All I know is that they individually punched the dates in.
Yes, yeah, they were individually punched until 1909, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, the Indian head cent was the last date that the last coin or that they did that with.
Okay, so the dates started being put on the master hub in 1909.
Yes.
Okay, that I did not know. Okay, so that's good clarification.
Yeah, so technically, like the 1942 over 41, technically those are doubled dies. Some people call them over dates, but they're technically doubled dies. If you look in listings, if you look under doubled dies, like on Variety Vista, you will find the 1942 over 41 listed as a doubled die.
Okay, so in this case,
but
they just rehubbed over the 41.
Yeah, when they, if they ran out of dies or they, something happened and they said, "Hey, we need another die over here." Then they attempted to abrade. They didn't do a very good job apparently on those. Attempted to remove the 41, but they didn't do a very good job. Obviously, but that's good for us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So the 42 over 1, like on Wexler's, is WDDO001. It's a class 3, which is a when a design is hubbed over another design.
Well, you know what? Are you going to be available tomorrow?
No. What time? Because my granddaughter has a birthday party at 2. I always have birthday parties.
Tomorrow I have my live stream tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central.
Oh, if I'm up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're getting ready to head into the premiere train. So I'm going to go ahead and have somebody throw in Will's Treasures link into the discussion, and then we'll move over to the premiere train. But we can continue this discussion tomorrow. Because I really want to talk about the coin that's on the screen right now, which is the 1884 over 81, which is a really cool variety. And to be able to talk about how that matrix being flipped allowed for this particular variety.
Yeah, I'd love some information. I've never ever heard the term matrix. None of that. Never heard that.
I'll fire that information over to you.
Yeah. And I've read a lot.
Oh, I know you do.
But I just have never heard that before.
Yeah, a lot of these terms were brand new to me. But there's a lot of really cool, a lot of good information in there. And you're probably saying the same thing. They're just utilizing different language.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, if you guys want to head on over to the premiere train. Now, let me do this. Let me ask chat. Okay. I want to honor the premiere train, but if you guys want to continue this conversation, we can continue the conversation, or we can just continue the conversation tomorrow. So I'm going to leave this to chat. What does chat want to do?
Oh, logo punch. Okay, now I know. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. I'm reading something. Yes, logo punch.
It's logo punch. Logo type. It's the same thing. It's a type
logo punch containing more than one digit, sometimes the entire date. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just probably different language.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right, you guys. Thanks. Have a great weekend, you guys.
Thanks for popping in, Paula. I'll send you that. I'll send you that article over.
Okay, yeah, I just found something in a book. So logo pods, yeah.
I'll forward you that article though. Everybody
Okay.
head over to the
Okay,
Premier
bye.
Train, go check out Will's Treasures, and then we will see you guys tomorrow morning. I'll continue this conversation to begin with, and then we'll move over to the other part. So we'll see you guys over there. Please throw that link into chat for me, and then I'll see you over at the Premier Train. See you guys, folks. Thanks for being patient with me. We'll talk to you later.